Just wanted to start off with team news ahead of Aston Villa. How are the team looking, and do you have any fresh injury concerns?
No, no, the team's looking well. Trained well. We've obviously got one or two just to have a look at tomorrow after training, just to see on availability. Obviously, Jamie hasn't done so much over this last period of time, but he's now out on the field, so we just need to see what his reaction is. Some of the other guys are coming back really well, but it's probably going to be next week before they would join the squad, like Sabuba Sumari and Johnny Evans. So they'll train next week. Ricardo Pereira is doing very, very well. He'll play in a game next week. He's looked great in training over these last few weeks, so it's just about stepping up. But no, apart from that, we'll be pretty much the same.
Just wanted to recap the last few days of the transfer window. Some real positives getting a few in. First of all, Tete, pleased to get your right-sided winger in.
Yeah, absolutely delighted. He's a very talented young player. He's done really well in Shakhtar and obviously in Lyon. So, he's technically very good, but he's like most Brazilian players I've worked with. They're obviously very strong as well, very committed, love football, and he's settled in very well and shown his qualities over the first few days.
And how you see?
See if we can get you another mic. There's less echoing.
Yeah.
Let's give this a go.
Any better? Better.
Just take it away. Take it away. That's it.
Harry Suter, into the kind of final hours of the transfer window. How pleased were you to get him as well, a long-term target?
Yeah, delighted. Seeing Harry as a younger player, and obviously seeing the trauma of coming through a bad injury that he had, and then seeing his performances at Stoke and in the World Cup. I also spoke to a number of people I really respect in the game who spoke so highly of him, and I can see why then, having met him and spoke with him. So he's a young player who's on the way up, done very well in the Championship. I seen him in loan in Scotland when he was a young player, when I worked there. And he's going to come in, and like I said, he's coming in to show his qualities into the Premier League, and he gives us that stature that we've been looking for. But as you've seen in the World Cup, he can play football as well. So delighted to have Harry in, and just in his first few days, he's made a really, really good impact already.
And with Harry, as you mentioned, he's a bit younger, coming from the Championship, has played at the World Cup though. How happy would you be to just throw him in this weekend, or do you want to see how he kind of fares over the next few weeks?
Yeah, but we just have to see that. He'd obviously had a little bit of a hip issue coming in, so but he trained today with the squad. We just have to look, because he hasn't done a great deal over the 10 days or so that he was out. So we just have to. He's one of the players that I need to assess. But if it wasn't for this weekend, he'd be certainly ready to go for the following weekend.
At the beginning of the window, you identified these 3 areas with Victor as well that you really wanted to strengthen. How happy are you that you're able, and the club were able to reinforce those areas?
Yeah, very happy. It's obviously been a long time since the club, I think, signed players in January, but there was definitely a need for it, especially after the last couple of windows. So I'm delighted that we were able to do the business that we have, because it's not just about now, it's preparing going forward. We get a number of players out of contract in the summer in key positions, especially centre half. So it was important from that aspect strategically that we brought a centre half in. So to get in a player like Harry was great. Victor, I think you've seen in his half hour he played last weekend. I think he's going to be a big hit with the team and the supporters here, and adds real competition in that position. And like you say, Tete coming in. So we're really pleased that we can bring some fresh faces in.
And with Mark Albrighton and Iosi Perez leaving on loan, were those difficult decisions to make?
Yeah, I think in terms of Mark, he's obviously got another year in his contract, and Mark's a real legend of the club. And in my time here, he's been absolutely brilliant, whether he started or come off the bench, and just off the field, his professionalism. But I spoke to Mark earlier on in the window, and I made a promise to him that it was just about him getting games. He's 33 years of age. He's at the part of his career now where he wanted to play, and and it's difficult because, like I said, he wants game time. He wants to play his young kids now that I've virtually not seen him play so much in these last few years. So it was the case of him getting out, getting some game time in for the end of the season, and then we can assess it again in the summer. And I owe that. You know, he's probably played his last game for the club. I think for him it was a dream to go to La Liga and play that. You know, he'd other offers in actual fact to go to Premier League clubs, but he didn't want to do that. He seen Leicester as the club that he wanted, along with Newcastle, to remind himself of the Premier League. And he'll have a chance now to go and finish off his career in La Liga, which was a big dream of his. And Ayo is, you know, he was fantastic for us. You know, he helped us. You know, played a big part in getting to 2 fifth-place finishes, winning the FA Cup where he started in the game and made the block that Yuri gets the winning goal from. So his contribution his time here has been great. Great lad to work with, and you know, goes and plays for Manuel at Betis, and you know, finish off his career in Spain.
And just finally from me, Brandon, a question on a deal that didn't happen on that Monday. Jack Harrison from Leeds, we understand he was starting a medical. You disappointed that deal collapsed at the end?
Well, it was surprising that the player was going to be available in the first instance, but then when it gets as far as it did, then of course you having met the player and spoken with the player, then of course it is. But listen, it's something that didn't happen, but other than that, I'm obviously really happy with the 3 players that we brought in. For us, it was a really positive window, and now we go forward with the players that we have to the end of the season. Cheers, thank you. Hi.
Switched off. Basics. So it feels like you've struggled a little bit to regain that momentum you obviously had going into the World Cup break. What signs, though, against Brighton did you take? Positive signs that maybe you're rediscovering some of that?
Well, hopefully, yeah. It's just, listen, Brighton are a team that were coming in probably the highest level of confidence, and tactically you have to play slightly differently because of how they work. But yeah, for us, look at it, leading into a few minutes to go, we're winning the game. So now we've seen moments of quality. We've seen the fighting spirit that we want to see, and just manage the details within the game, and then you see that game through. So, but no, I just think that even with young Tete coming in, it's brought a freshness to the training. The training's been really, really good. He'll provide competition, and yeah, I just think now we've got a great run of games now between now and the end of the season, and we want to attack every game.
Villa next, though, first things first. 5 wins in 7 under Unai Emery. What do you make of that?
Yeah, listen, Unai's come in and made a great impact, but it's not a surprise. You know, I think that you know, his body of work over many years has shown that he's an outstanding coach. The problem sometimes in the Premier League when you're a manager is that you can do all that work and then you get written off as a has-been after 2 or 3 months. But people within the game can look and see the work that he's done, and obviously coming into Aston Villa, he's shown that also. So so for us, it's a derby game, it's a Midlands game that I've always enjoyed since being at Leicester, and it's another tough game like they all are in the Premier League. But we'll go there. It's a great stadium to play at. Pitch is magnificent, and we want to go and play our football, but also know that we've got to fight for the result.
It's just 3 points covering 7 teams at the wrong end of the table. What qualities do you think you have in your group that are going to help you in the next weeks and months if that scramble continues?
No, it's just about, there's no magic formula. It's about working hard. You know, you constantly have to work in the Premier League to get the results, and then showing that bit of quality in the right moments that can get you the result. So, but no, I think that that now that the window's closed, it always settles everything down. We know where we're at as a squad, and we know the challenges that lie ahead for us. So we have many qualities in our squad, but it's just so important that you have that togetherness and that spirit and that fighting mentality, and we've shown that on numerous occasions here.
One game at a time, as you always say. Probably a good approach given the 3 fixtures that follow this one. Does it put an extra emphasis on this game and getting something out of this game that you've got Spurs, United, Arsenal to follow?
Yeah, no, I think it's every game. In the Premier League, it's the one thing that you can't do. You can't forecast results, but all you can do is really concentrate on the next game. I can't worry about Tottenham or United or Arsenal, as you say. The next game is Aston Villa, and our concentration is very much on getting a good performance and result in that game.
Great, thank you.
Pleasure, thank you.
Hi Brendan, hope you're okay.
Yeah, good.
Just a couple of injuries that you've not spoken about. I wonder if I could get some clarification on the first one. Wilfred Ndidi, I think you said he would be back a couple of weeks after the Brighton game. That would be coming up to this weekend. How is he doing?
Yeah, he's obviously been training well. He's had a personal issue this week that won't see him involved in the weekend, but hopefully going forward he'll not be too far away.
Okay. And just the final one on injuries. Sammy Braybrook posted yesterday that he had torn his ACL. How big of a disappointment is that for you, seeing a young player like that being in and around the first team, but also how did he do that as well?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I spoke to Sammy again last night, and no, we're bitterly disappointed for him. It's following on from Will's injury not so long ago either, the bad injury that he had. So yeah, we're bitterly disappointed because he was a young player that had committed to being here, and the big possibility he was going to get a loan period to go and gain more experiences. But unfortunately, it was It was an unfortunate incident for him in the game. So, and obviously when he's had his scan and that, it was worse than we first feared. So it's unfortunate, but like I said to him, being a footballer is about dealing with traumas as well. And you'll deal with trauma, you'll deal with disappointment. Now he gets a chance to recover and hopefully be stronger when he gets back. And he's ready for that fight now as a young player.
On Harry Souttar, you've spoken about profiles of centre-backs before and the kind of profile that you want in there. Why does he fit that profile?
Well, I think it's also about hunger as well. He's a player, and he was available and he was affordable for where we were at and where we're at as a club. So, and like I said, he's been out there for a number of clubs. And if it wasn't us, I'm pretty sure he'd have went to another very good Premier League club. But for me, he's just, as I said, 24 years of age, got experiences, but is on his way up. And when you have that hunger, and when you have the ability that he has, and when you have the thirst to learn, and when you're coachable, then I think we'll see great improvements in him. So yeah, I just think he fits the model of a club here like Leicester, and I'm pretty sure he'll do really well here.
On one of your other signings in Tete as well, I think fans are very excited to see him. In training, have you seen some of that Brazilian flair? And I wonder how much that might help you in the second part of the season.
Yeah, I always hear about the Brazilian flair, but we've got Coventry flair as well. And which is outstanding and from other areas of the country, but certainly, yeah, what he does is he plays outside where I like wingers to be, so that they're ready in the 1v1. But very importantly, he's very good at running behind, and he can secure the ball. And one of the areas I felt for us, in order to create more chances, is to secure the ball for longer periods as we arrive up the pitch, and he allows us to do that. His touch is immaculate, as you can imagine. He's got a good idea of football. He's already shown in the couple of days he's been in here. He wants to threaten the back line as well, and he has an eye for goal. So it the club done great to secure him. Fits the profile of how we and what we would like, and and also he's tough. You can see even in training he's aggressive, and any of the Brazilian players I've worked with, they have that love of football and they have a toughness, and we'll look forward to seeing him play in the shirt.
You've already talked about Mark Albrighton and obviously Perez and Jack Harrison as well. I wonder how you feel about your options on the right-hand side. With Tete, I know you've played James Maddison out there, but we spoke in pre-season that you wanted him to play as more of a higher 8 and more of a 10 in the middle of the park. I wonder whether 2 players leaving the club and not getting that fourth player in the window might leave you a little bit short on the right-hand side, or whether you're happy with the options you have there.
Yeah, I think it was one where, listen, we had a really positive window, and yet we tried to get another player in that could really, really help us and provide competition. Didn't quite materialise, but it doesn't take away the fact that we've had a really good window. Mark, I'd made a promise too, that he could go. Like you say, we have options. If we have Dennis Pratt who's played there. We've James who's played there. Of course, we're going to have players coming back, and I've been really impressed with young Wanya who's been playing in the under-21 team. He's been doing really well and has trained well with us. And he's an out-and-out winger as well. They can play there, and he's shown up very well in training. So I also look from within, and But I'm confident we have the squad that we would want, even though we tried to do more business. Didn't quite work out, but I'm still really happy with what we did.
On Wednesday, Brendan, the club announced that Kuntop had relieved the club of its outstanding debts to King Power, which were around £194 million. When you saw that news, how did that make you feel firstly, and how important is that for the football club wider as well?
Well, I think there's been lots of criticism this year aimed at myself and the board, but I think if you look at the board, I think that there in itself really tells you about that commitment and the strength of commitment that the ownership has to the club. I'm not so sure there's too many owners would do that, but that really tells you everything about what Kuntop and his family and what the club means to them. And I don't think there's a greater commitment shown by too many. And it was fantastic news, clearly for the club, but also provide that support going forward.
Final one, Brendan. But I remember speaking to you in between the kind of New Year and Christmas period, and you said that by the end of February you wanted to be inside the top 10 and then be able to push on between then and the end of the season. Looking at the table, I think it's 11 points between where you are now and the top 10 with 4 games in February, so it's possible, but maybe a bit of a stretch. I wonder whether you've had to change those ambitions now, or how you kind of look at the goals for the rest of the season in the Premier League.
No, listen, we'll assess it at the end of February. That was the target, that was our aim, and we're not at the end of February yet. So let's wait and see. You sound like we're already beaten in the games that we have to play, so that's not the case. We've got some exciting games, some great games, and we'll see where we're at the end of February.
Good stuff. Brendan.
Good man.
Thank you very much. Best
Thank
of luck
you.
Saturday.
Good Colin from BBC News.
Just a quick couple of ones from me.
Yeah.
Just following up on the money and the changes behind the scenes, does that have a direct impact on you, what you can do? Have you been told anything about that to change anything for you at all?
No, we haven't spoken so much about that, but I'm pretty sure we will do, and what that means over the coming months. So clearly we have a lot of work to do come the summer and beyond that. But I just think overall it's great news for the club, and they can all of course plan forward.
And just secondly for me, I was intrigued by what you said about Tete and his impact on training. What's going on there with the squad? Is that existing players trying to impress the new boys? Is that just fresh energy? What's happening there?
Yeah, it always is. It's when you bring that freshness into any team, it's natural. You bring a good player in, your current good players want to show that they are good players. Listen, and it's no different, is it, to if you're in the same environment and it's the same people and the same faces, and then you drop in 1 or 2 new faces, then it always helps. It's just a freshness, it's an energy, but when it's a player of quality, then of course that improves it. And you could just see the difference by the guys being in. Victor Christensen's made a great impact as well. He's a young player coming in. You see his energies. It's like what I've always said. It's players that want to prove a point. You know, they're on their way up. They're hungry, and when you have that hunger aligned with quality, then that will always help, and it will always help your existing and current players as well.